What you are about to see has been hidden for years, but recent images reveal something terrifying beneath the ice of Antarctica, one of the most remote and inaccessible places on the planet, where silence reigns and the ice has hidden its secrets for millennia, has just become the focus of one of the most disturbing discoveries of the modern era. We are not talking about a simple geological formation or a new underground mountain range. We are talking about something that bears the marks of intelligence, of intention, of presence. A colossal object, which until recently was just rumor and speculation, and now it is beginning to reveal itself in shocking detail. The images, captured by high-resolution satellites and analyzed by independent experts, show an unusual structure, too symmetrical to be natural. Straight lines, precise angles, a shape that seems more like a construction than a natural one. Could this be the proof that many have been silently searching for? Could we be looking at a confirmation of a forgotten technology, intentionally buried? Or could it be something even older, something that predates history as we know it? The fact is, this structure is there, hidden by thick layers of ice, protected from the outside world by its extreme location, and ignored by those who do not want the truth to come to light. What makes this discovery so disturbing is not just its existence, but the obvious effort to keep it hidden. Several sections of the footage have been censored from public databases. Reports have disappeared. Researchers who dared to mention what they saw on previous expeditions have been discredited or silenced. There is a clear pattern. The closer you get to the truth, the thicker the veil of silence becomes. And that in itself is proof that something big is at stake, something that challenges governments, challenges science, and above all, challenges the very notion of reality that we take for granted. And this is where the mystery deepens. Because this isn't just a strange image on a forgotten piece of the map. This is a revelation with the potential to shake beliefs, rewrite theories, and spark a wave of questions that go far beyond geology or conventional science. There are ancient documents, forgotten maps, erased records of history that speak of something buried at the edge of the world, a place where the ancients said the gods rested, or where lost civilizations left their hidden legacies. And now, for the first time, we have a possible real connection to these myths, to these forgotten prophecies. What has been revealed is just the surface of a much larger secret, one that lies hidden beneath the silent ice of Antarctica. Have you ever wondered what really exists in Antarctica? Why so much military protection in an uninhabited region, where, in theory, there should only be ice, scientific research, and absolute silence? This frozen territory, surrounded by international treaties that prohibit civilian presence, is home to more than just snow and extreme temperatures. It holds a mystery that has aroused suspicion for decades, but which is now becoming impossible to ignore. Why do world powers maintain military bases in a place where there is no population, no war, and no natural resources that can be exploited on a large scale? What are they trying to protect or hide? This is a question that few dare to ask, and even fewer try to answer. Confidential documents, obscured satellite images, and diverted air routes reinforce the idea that there is something hidden, something so powerful that it justifies all this protection. There are kilometers of ice covering a buried secret, a secret that perhaps not even all nations together are ready to reveal. The behavior of the authorities in the face of this recent discovery is, to say the least, suspicious. Whenever content is leaked, it quickly disappears from the networks, videos disappear, profiles are suspended, and the pattern repeats itself. Silence, denial, and, above all, omission. And the more they try to hide it, the more certain we become that what is there is not natural. It is not common. It is not human. We are faced with evidence that has been deliberately silenced, protected by invisible borders that claim to be for the safety of science, but which sound more like walls erected against the truth. It is in this thick layer of lies that lies one of the greatest enigmas of our time. What few people know is that this anomaly was initially recorded in a remote area southeast of the Vostok base, one of the most inhospitable points in Antarctica, where temperatures can reach 80 degrees Celsius and access is almost impossible without military support. It was precisely there, in the middle of an isolated strip of ice with little geological activity and very little civilian monitoring, that images captured by satellites began to raise suspicions. At first, they seemed to be just imperfections in the frozen surface. But when the elevation data was cross-referenced with thermal sensors and ground-penetrating radar mapping, something unusual emerged. A structure approximately 30 kilometers long, buried more than 800 meters, deep, with absolutely straight lines, 90-degree angles, and a symmetry that simply does not exist in nature. What the radar showed was more than just a simple rock formation. It was a clear sign of artificial interference. Independent scientists who analyzed the data, outside of official circles, classified the discovery as technologically impossible within the natural context of the region. There are infrared images that indicate a slight emission of heat coming from inside the structure, something inexplicable considering the pressure and absolute cold of the place. No natural formation would behave like this. Some of the most recent records have even shown what appear to be internal corridors or cavities distributed in an orderly fashion, as if they were compartments of a hidden installation. This has led many to speculate that we are not simply looking at a buried structure, but something that was built, or left there, by an as yet unknown intelligence. As the images began to circulate discreetly among alternative research groups and communities interested in unexplained phenomena, the first theories began to emerge. The 30-kilometer-long buried structure, with its nearly perfect symmetry and inexplicable thermal behavior, has rekindled hypotheses that have been circulating behind the scenes of the mystery for decades. One of the oldest and most controversial theories points to the possibility of a secret Nazi base. Historical records suggest that during World War II, German expeditions were sent to Antarctica with the aim of establishing a base in neutral territory. There are reports of maps with mysterious markings, alleged testimonies from military personnel, and the infamous rumor of Base 211, an advanced underground facility that would have housed never-before-seen technology. Another, even more disturbing hypothesis involves the possibility that what is buried under the ice is not human. Some theorists claim that the structure could be an alien spacecraft, technology left behind by a non-terrestrial civilization that visited Earth in ancient times. This theory is reinforced by the aerodynamic shape observed in some records and by the presence of materials that do not match the local geological composition. But perhaps the most fascinating of all possibilities is that of a buried city, a vestige of an ancient civilization that existed long before recorded history. Apocryphal texts and forgotten legends mention a people who controlled the climate, gravity, and life energy itself, and who mysteriously disappeared, leaving only ruins buried in inaccessible places. Antarctica, in this context, would not be just an icy desert, but a mausoleum of forbidden knowledge. With the silent spread of these images and theories, what was expected was, at the very least, an official response, an explanation, a technical note, an attempt to refute or contextualize what was being revealed. But what came was exactly the opposite: absolute silence. No government agency commented on the structure. No scientific statement was issued. Researchers who had mentioned the anomaly at international symposiums simply disappeared from official publications. Even academic forums, usually open to debate, began to exclude topics related to the discovery. There are records of universities that disallowed theses linked to the analysis of Antarctic terrain after involvement with this type of data. The concealment became even more evident when public climate and geological data platforms began to show errors exactly at the coordinates where the structure was mapped. Updated satellite images were replaced by old versions or corrupted files. Remote monitoring services began to display error zones where records of the anomaly had previously been, and this did not happen by accident. Independent analysts have confirmed that the original material was removed from servers without prior warning, which is effectively a form of digital censorship. It's not just the data that disappears, it's the names of those who shared it. Researchers from Eastern Europe and South America, who participated in expeditions in the past decade, can no longer be found in public databases. Their articles have disappeared. Their names no longer appear on lists of international collaborations. The disappearance is not just physical, but informational, as if there were a coordinated effort to erase any trace of those who dared to speak about what lies beneath the ice. Despite the silence of the authorities, visual evidence continues to emerge, and with it, stories that have long been hidden. Satellite images from independent sources taken before the data was systematically erased clearly show an unusual elevation on the ice surface, with geometric shapes that defy any natural pattern. Straight lines extending for hundreds of meters, perfect curves, precise angles. These images, archived by independent researchers and kept away from large servers, are the centerpiece of the puzzle that is forming. But they are not just images. Stories from former military personnel and former employees of classified scientific missions have begun to emerge on anonymous forums and alternative platforms. A geophysical engineer who participated in an Australian mission confided, under a pseudonym, that sensors had picked up a massive metal structure buried about 900 meters underground. He claims that shortly after the recording, the equipment was confiscated and the team replaced with personnel who were not on the official project roster. Another report, from a former airline logistics employee, indicates that flights to certain coordinates at the South Pole were routinely diverted under orders from above, even in situations without climate risk. There are also mentions of metallic noises picked up by underground sensors, cyclical vibrations with no geological explanation, and even sightings of artificial lights emerging from under the ice during certain times of the year. Leaked documents whose origins have been linked to declassified agency files mention the term structure of unknown origin and make reference to international containment protocols. These records, although never officially confirmed, circulate among parallel research groups and reinforce what many already suspect. The truth is being suppressed, but fragments of the mystery continue to slip through the cracks in the system. Most disturbingly, this latest discovery seems to resonate with ancient and forgotten accounts, historical documents ignored by academia, and legends that have circulated among ancient civilizations for centuries. Egyptian writings, medieval maps, and Renaissance navigators' records all mention frozen lands in the southern part of the world, territories described as forbidden, guarded by gods, or sealed by an invisible force. These texts, once dismissed as mythology or cartographic errors, are now beginning to make sense in light of the latest visual evidence. Among the most enigmatic accounts is that of the Lost Continent, a supposed expanse of land that disappeared after a global cataclysm. Some cultures called it Hyperborea, others Thule, but all described a place in the far south, shrouded in ice and mystery, where an advanced civilization flourished before being buried by the ages. The Agartha theory, for example, argues for the existence of a subterranean world inhabited by an ancient and highly evolved race, and the passages to this realm are hidden in remote regions such as Antarctica. Admiral Richard E. Byrd himself, in his 1947 flight logs, is said to have mentioned a land beyond the pole, so vast and mysterious that it defies imagination. His account, later suppressed, further fuels the suspicion that forbidden knowledge is being kept from humanity. There are ancient inscriptions that speak of portals to other worlds, energy vortices, and artifacts left by beings who did not belong to this planet. When we cross-reference these historical fragments with current anomalies, the connection becomes impossible to ignore. Faced with so much evidence, visual records, suppressed accounts, and historical connections that echo through the centuries, the silence of modern science becomes even more deafening. The scientific community, which should be on the front lines investigating and explaining such discoveries, remains in a posture of hesitation, as if afraid of what it might find if it looked deeper. And perhaps this fear is not unfounded. Accepting that there is an artificial structure buried in Antarctica of colossal proportions and unknown origin would imply rewriting textbooks, destroying paradigms, and, above all, challenging the foundations of almost all academic disciplines. Geology would have to reconsider the chronology of Earth's movements. Archaeology would be forced to admit the existence of civilizations that predate what is known as recorded history. And physics? Perhaps it would have to accept the presence of technologies that operate outside the natural laws that we today consider absolute. But beyond science, there is a second, even more delicate field: the spiritual. Because if this structure is not in fact a human work, or even a work of Earth, what does this mean for the religions, the faith, the beliefs that sustain billions of people on the planet? Would we be prepared to accept that there are intelligences that are more ancient, more powerful, and possibly closer to a concept of divinity than anything we have ever imagined? What if these beings not only existed, but still all exist, watching, waiting, guiding in silence? It would be the end of what we know as truth. What if what lies buried beneath the Antarctic ice is not just forgotten technology, but a silent warning left by something, or someone, that already knew what the future held? Think about it. Structures so old, so advanced, buried in one of the most inaccessible points on the planet, would not be there by chance. What if all that was placed there on purpose, protected by ice and distance as some kind of timed warning, a knowledge capsule, or even a containment system, that was only to be discovered when humanity was sufficiently evolved or desperate to understand its true purpose? There are theories that suggest that certain past civilizations not only mastered technologies inconceivable by today's standards, but also foresaw cycles of global destruction. Could this structure be a key to avoiding the next collapse? Or perhaps the trigger of an event we don't yet understand? What if this structure was left there by beings who have already walked the same path we are now walking, and failed? We are faced with something that may be more than a physical artifact. It could be an architecturally encrypted message, a form of nonverbal communication with superior intelligence. Perhaps even a mechanism that activates only when certain conditions on the planet are met. This possibility opens doors to interpretations that go beyond science and spirituality. We are talking about a multidimensional enigma, which perhaps we shouldn't even have found yet. If we've come this far, it's because something inside you also senses that there's more hidden beneath the ice than the world is ready to admit. Antarctica may very well be the missing link between everything we've been conditioned to believe and everything that really happened. The mystery continues. The pieces of the puzzle are emerging, and the truth is getting closer and closer to coming to light. But until it's fully revealed, we keep questioning, investigating, and connecting the signs left over time. Because maybe, deep down, what's buried isn't just technology or just history. It's the very origin of who we are. If you've come this far, it's because you're looking for answers. So subscribe to the channel now to continue this journey with us. Leave a like to show that this type of content needs to reach more people. And if you also feel that the truth is being hidden, comment below. I want the truth. And don't forget, the next video is already on the screen, and it will show you another hidden chapter that they don't want you to discover. Click now and continue exploring what they are trying to silence.